Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone tonight. Thank you for being here. Notice is hereby given of a regular meeting of the Board of Directors to be held at 105 Fort Road, Port Isabel, Texas, March 22nd, 2023 at the hour of 5:30 p.m. for consideration of the business of the agenda below. This notice is posted at the office of the district on March 17, 2023 at 1 p.m. in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code 551-041, 551-050, not less than 72 hours prior to the time of the said meeting. We do have the presence of a quorum today. Present, we have member Mr. David, myself, Mr. Friedman, and Mr. Donahue. If I may please, do we have anyone on Zoom? No? Okay. So if I may please have everyone stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Father, we thank you again for all your blessings, Lord, and the care that you have given us, Lord, for all the members, the staff, and all the employees. We ask you to continue with your love and mercy for all of us, Lord, and that we may continue to do our best to serve the public and everything that we do, that we do the best for you, Lord. And we thank you for today, meeting, and in Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Father. At this time, we'll move to item 3, invitation to the audience for public comments. Staff, board, anyone want to come say anything? Okay. Board, got anyone? Staff? Thank you. Let's move to item 4. Consider and discuss for possible approval the minutes of the regular meeting from March 8, 2023.
Move that we approve the minutes.
Motion made by Mr. Waters, second by Mr. Donahue. Are all those in favor?
Aye.
They are. Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Thank you. Item 5, general manager's report.
Oh, sorry about that. Yes, the reservoir levels, I left you a copy of it, and we're dropping still to from 29, that last meeting, to 28.0, which is, I believe that there's a report that there should be some rain in our watershed this coming week. But it hasn't been there yet. And another report was that Mexico is supposed to pay us water that they owe us. So they may release some, because their reservoirs are full now. So all I have to do is release some water for us, and hopefully we can get a higher level in the near future. On the next bullet that I have, just a reminder of upcoming workshop on the 29th. It's a Wednesday at 4 p.m. So that's all I have for today.
Okay. Thank you, Carlos. Appreciate it. Let's move to item 6, district engineers report. Carlos. Thank you.
All right, good evening. And I guess maybe as a start here, our next item on Long Island Village, Noah Hinojosa should be getting here around 5:45. So I'll probably keep the report going until he gets in to be ready for that presentation. But pretty much the first item here to discuss is the financial, managerial, and technical capacity assessment. Since we're in the middle of a technical review for that loan through drinking water SRF to get the additional 15 million, I guess TCQ ordered I guess Gil from Texas Rural Water to perform this capacity assessment, which he went ahead and took care of that. The visit here on March 14th, and so we kind of had I suppose for Thursday, Friday, the week prior to the meeting on Tuesday, we got the question. There's a more extended list aside from this exit interview list that we went through and tried to sort of plan in advance. And then on Tuesday, we went ahead and sat down with a meeting, and it was really just to look for opportunities where we could improve and versus all the strengths. And as far as going down the entire list, from rates to customer service to our service areas, we pretty much found strengths all the way down the board. So there were no weaknesses identified during our F&T capacity assessment. So you just basically had good things to say. It's the kind of exit interviews you want to sign where everything's a strength. So that's pretty much we had a report. So he has to make his submittal to Texas Water Development Board by the 30th. So I mean, I suppose we're on track to get that loan for the SRF, however long it takes in that process, close over the summer, so we can get those projects moving. So, yeah. So I guess the next item here, one of the things we did have to submit with that assessment was the 5-year capital improvement plan. So I went ahead and cleaned up what we've been working on, and that's the next item here in our engineer's report. So, I mean, this is pretty much the latest and greatest 5-year plan. And so the first couple items here at Water Plant 1, it's the microfiltration. The first line item is what we've already awarded through Paul Corporation for 4.7 million. And so we had our kickoff meeting with Paul on Tuesday, I believe, yesterday. And so basically, we should be seeing their first set of submittals be shipping out next week. So that's moving as far as getting all that original equipment going here at Water Plant 1. Item number 2 here is the general contractor to do all the microfiltration. And we had our pre-bid meeting on that project today. And so, I mean, I basically, the engineer's estimate for the base bid is 15.1 million. But I pretty much have the remaining balance for the tax bond with the one that we already currently have in the bank, the open market, just basically having that balance match up that balance. So we would expect to actually have some surplus, or the alternates that are being bid at the same time is the ground storage tank that we expect to be funded through the SRF loan, the backup generator. And then also, one of the things they're looking at is assigning the fall contract to the general contractor. So there may be a fee associated with that, but that'll be part of all the bids that are due April 20th, and we'll be presenting those on May 10th to the board for the general contractor. And so the third item, the groundwater, the ground storage tank, that's our estimate from the 100% design. But again, it's being bid as an alternate, which we expect it to have to go to rebid because of funding limits. Same thing with number 4, the backup generator. And then 5 here is that raw water transfer pump station. So we can get more water pumped from Laguna Beach to the Port Isabel. And so that's at a 60% design. We had our workshop on that. So it's on track to get wrapped up here in June with a 90% or so. And then again, the item 6 is our 600,000 gallon elevated storage tank. We'll put that one back out for bid as soon as we close on this SRF loan. The Laguna Boulevard, the 8-inch pipeline is already in place. 12-inch bypass is going well. I guess right now what we're trying to do is there's still valves that are pending at that Resort Road intersection by the AEP Sunchase substation. We still have some 8-inch valves, and we need to cap that line that crosses Padre Boulevard. So there's still going to be some work scheduled over the next couple of weeks at that cap. Well, because since the 12-inch bypass is in place coming off the causeway, that crossing of Padre Boulevard where the signal intersection is at, we don't really need it anymore. We kind of think one of the valves is broken or it doesn't really work anyway. So basically on the same side of the road as that Sunchase and McDonald's, we're gonna have to do another shutdown from Corral to that intersection, drop in those last valves. And then that 12-inch pipe that crosses under Padre Boulevard is just gonna get filled with grout and abandoned in place. So that's pretty much the last amount of work that we want to do under that contract with Cornet. And that contract did have an owner's allowance of 150,000 just because we knew there were going to be a lot of unknowns. And I think one of the major items is when we went down Laguna Boulevard and did all that casing for every connection, the 6-inch lines and 8-inch that were crossing Laguna Boulevard, none of that casing was in the bid items. So we're gonna have to come in and do a final quantities adjustment. Yeah, so we're working on the final quantity adjustment, which we'll present here in April, probably the second April board meeting. But we do expect, like a change order, just kind of round out those final quantities that would exceed that. Like we had the 150 owner's allowance, which I think we fully used. And I mean, we don't have the exact numbers. Like the first one we looked at right now is 190,000, but there's some credit for some of the paving that didn't get done. So we got to finalize the quantities, but that's what we're working out for, like a final quantities adjustment to close out the distribution contract. And there's
So
a,
kind of be prepared for a shortage.
well, yeah, I mean, pretty much, like, say, the budget I have for the 16.4 million, that would be covering the change order for the water distribution, added from that bond fund, so that would be part of where we'd have to cover it. And so that's, we expect to make that formal request here in April. But, and then there's some valves that were under the contract in Port Isabel and Laguna Vista, and just because of the, I guess the contractor really, the limited shutdown times we have, I think we're just gonna pretty much draw the line after he finishes that work there on the island and call the contract good and do the final quantities adjustment at that point. And then just for the valves that are still pending in Port Isabel, Laguna Vista, just take care of those in-house. Yeah. And so I think that's how we're gonna finish out distribution, just to, put the contract to an end. And so that's what's going on there. Did I miss anything, or that's about right? Good. All right, cool. All right, still waiting. All right, so basically the next one, Water Plant 2, high service pump station. That one, it's gonna bid under a separate contract, and we also don't wanna bid that until Water Plant 1 is finished, because we need Water Plant 1 upgrades in service before we can do long, major shutdowns in Laguna Vista. And the next one I went ahead and put on here was the seawater desalination treatment facility. I just kind of, put in 25 million because we don't have good estimates on the seawater plant at this stage. But, of course, that number is going to have to get refined as we have a better idea of what the seawater is going to cost. And so as far as for next fiscal year, the 2023-24, I am, I guess, estimating that 500,000, assuming we'll get that cooperative agreement. So that'll be the local match where reclamation would provide 500,000, and then we do 500,000 if we proceed with the seawater feasibility.
Great.
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of, we're talking to various firms. I think we're making good headway on the seawater project. So that'll be part of what we discuss in our workshop on the 29th. And so, I guess the core study, I should have put that on there. I don't have the work that we're doing this fiscal year on this 5-year plan, but we're still on track to have that model with the Corps of Engineers and Tetra Tech completed here probably by September. The schedule got pushed back a month, but pretty much Tetra Tech, they came down and did a site visit today to get an understanding for the layout at the navigation district. And so I guess some of the things as we're starting to look at permitting and being able to get the intake is from that intake, you need to have a certain buffer zone or restrict access around that intake. Like, you can't be near docks, you have to restrict fishing. And so we got to start thinking about how we're going to approach TCEQ with being able to get an intake at a navigation district. So I think we'll start diving into those details and see what kind of exceptions we're going to have to request to TCEQ to start diving in the weeds, or there may be more involved than just dropping a pipe to the drop just to get all the separation requirements from all the other facilities. Yes. So I guess that's kind of, we're starting to see the intake is going to get a little more involved. But at the end of the day, I think seawater is probably the better approach than reuse at this stage, because building that water plant at the tail end of the sewer plant is going to probably get comparable to the seawater anyway. So we'll just kind of keep rolling forward like so.
Yeah.
And so I guess jumping over to the distribution, our tanks, they got to get scheduled. So we kind of have them phased in over the next 5 years. Let's see. And then, I went ahead and put in this, because we know for the causeway, we got to upgrade that line to 24-inch. So we avoid the need for a booster pump station on the island. So we're just going to start putting that on the idea for the 5-year plan. And then the rest of it's just, keeping our river pumps good to go. Long Island Village, water and sewer improvements, went ahead and put that on the 5-year plan. And then the rest of it's just really finishing out our lift stations. And then Isla Blanca, of course, that's going to have to be a rehab at some stage. And the advanced water treatment facility, I have that on here as future, where we'd be looking at doing the seawater ahead of advanced reuse. I guess that's kind of how I have it scheduled in the current 5-year plan. So that pretty much wraps up the meat and potatoes, I suppose, for the 5-year plan. And then also the facilities. Since we did this facilities master plan, I went ahead and put the numbers on here as well. And so pretty much when this water tower is decommissioned and out of service, we can start thinking about our admin building, expanding that way to get the additional office space we need. So that's, I think, kind of the way we're thinking for facilities, a couple of years after we finish up the water towers and everything. So, yeah, I guess that's 5-year plan, right? So that wraps up that 20-year right?
You'll still be here, Scott.
Yes. All right, and I guess the last item on the engineer's report is this conservation equity management. And I remember at the last meeting, I think you might have asked what was happening behind stripes.
Yes.
So that's actually this conservation equity management. And so they bought about 480 acres off of the Iturias. And so it's really, they're intending to, it's a for-profit type enterprise, but they're intending to make their income through conservation measures. And so, right now on the website, they have it listed as a Bahia Grande mitigation bank. But I mean, they'll look at various ways to utilize that property. They did approach us where they want to explore the ability for that site to produce groundwater. And so we actually have a visit with them April 6th. Just
Groundwater on that site.
yeah, like basically,
Brackish water.
yeah, of course it'd be brackish water. So I mean, we don't see that as a spot where we would be getting good groundwater, but they want to investigate that site and kind of just coordinate.
Themselves?
Well, they would like, the intent would be to sell groundwater to us, I suppose, is how they're trying to approach it. And so, I mean, it seems like not really a place you'd be identifying a good source for groundwater, but, we'll entertain them and at least, yeah, exactly. So that was that
And
phone
we,
call.
did have a test well, water treatment plant in the two, so we know the quality of water is.
Yeah. So anyways, I mean, they're going to do a face-to-face visit April 6th, but I mean, that's the extent of what's going on with that site. And that concludes the engineer's report.
Thank you, Charles. Let's move to item 7, presentation on Long Island Village water and sewer improvements.
All right. Send that one over to yeah.
Welcome, Mr. Noah. Nice to have you here.
It's good to be back home. Goodness, weather changed on me.
You brought it with you.
Yeah, well, I was in the mountains last week, 1 degree. Yeah, not good. But I came back with my limbs intact, so that's good. I guess we have our board member up there, Starkey. Jason up there?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Good to see you, sir. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Good. Oh, you sound really powerful. I'm glad you're on the screen out right here in front of us. Basically, wanted to give you an update. There's no action required. Wanted to give you an update about the financing on Long Island Village and all the, I guess, all the issues that we've encountered. You probably heard about the interest rates going up like crazy. In fact, in my 36-year career, I never found 22 so challenging. Interest rates just went up like crazy. The value on bonds dropped. We're a broker dealer. We buy bonds at a price. The next day you have to sell them at another price. Unfortunately, it was always lower from about May to about November. And it's certainly anything you do today, you paying very dearly for the loans. The loans we got, I think you were there with us when we did. Was it last year?
Yes.
Well, from that point forward, literally everything collapsed on us. People that have money, a lot of funds out there, are trying to invest in good credits, high quality credits. They're playing the safeguard. They don't want to risk it. Yesterday, we were financial advisors to the state of Louisiana on $1.5 billion, and we only had orders for about $2 billion from the $1.6 billion. 2 weeks ago, we did the largest transaction for Texas, and it was a blowout. A lot of people wanted to buy it. The next day, the Silicon Valley Bank announced this collapse. Rates dropped like crazy. People don't think they should be getting a less of a return in their investments, so they don't believe in investing in lending money for that matter. So they're staying close to cash. That was pretty much the perception we had about Long Island Village when we started with the project 3 years ago or 2 years ago. they were having a hard time. They had told us that they wanted to go to a local bank, and the bank didn't want to talk to them. So we went through a process of what's the best thing for them to do. And the best thing that we could envision them doing was calling a referendum within their service area. So we call that, I think, this designated area. So
Yes, that's right.
so designated area basically held the election because you called it for them, I think, and they passed. Then what choices do we have? Well, the choices we had was going to the water development board. So we went to the water development board after the May election last year. We went to the water development board in June and try to find to see if they could give us grants. And basically, there was no money. The competition for grant funds and for zero interest rate loans was highly competitive. It's a statewide fund, so somebody from Muleshoe, Texas, from Tyler or El Paso is competing with you if you want to get those funds. And I don't know if we applied for that, Eddie, or not, and we actually ended up ranked pretty high up, right?
So like as far as submitting our project information forms?
Yeah.
We got on the intended use plan, but we were what, in the 70 range on the projects?
So they would only fund like 25 projects, so we didn't get there. So then the other option we had was go to NatBank. Our objective was not interest rates. Our objective was to secure a loan because the credit quality of the loan is not marketable. I couldn't, unless you sign, almost like me going with the chairman here to the bank, and unless he signs for me, I don't think I'll get that loan. So, is that right, Mr.? But anyway, so you're signing for them, and if you don't sign, then you don't have to find the market attractive to them. And then the question is, well, why are you signing your credit? So what we did was, we don't mind sponsoring the process, but I don't want to sacrifice my ratings or my credit. So we went to another state bank called NatBank, the North American Development Bank. And that's a pretty fortunate situation in the sense that NatBank, which was created after the NAFTA agreement, basically can provide funds to Mexican entities or American entities that don't have access to the market. And it just it felt like a glove for us. Unfortunately, some of you may have a presentation there, and I'd like to go over that with you. Unfortunately, the loan that we got, and I think their board said, we would like to, if we can, borrow all of it. So if they go borrow all of it, because interest rates continue to be attractive, the rate that we got quoted was somewhere in the neighborhood of 7.2%. And it's fixed for 30 years, and it's got a 5-year call, meaning that, and I probably can call it even sooner or have that option to be sooner, but very much like your mortgages, you can refinance your mortgage anytime. When you do a municipal bond, you are normally expected to not have the right to refinance until after 10 years that you have had the loan, or that they have had the loan in their books. The lender normally dictates to the borrower, you're not going to call me my 7.2%, even if interest rates drop. So this is kind of the worst case scenario in the sense that if rates do come lower between now and year 6, we will refinance that loan for them, take it to another state bank or take it to the open markets, because hopefully by that time they would have developed credit in the open markets. So if you go with that rate, 7.2%, then the question is, okay, what other features can NatBank give us that the open markets would not? Well, if you look at the structure here on the 4th column from left to right, you'll see that we're not expected to pay principal until or about 2027. You'll never get that anywhere. And the only reason why we did that was to lower the payments on the front end as we expect values to grow. So, this is a process of spending $20 million. In fact, the project fund is about $19,780,000. And it pretty much shows there on the right side of that page what the monthly impact is going to be on a house that is worth $100,000. If you have owned $100,000, your annual tax payment is gonna be $1,089. If you own a $225,000 house, it's gonna be a $2,450 house. But in that value, that dollar value is not gonna change. What's gonna change if your property values do grow from 100 to 225 is the property tax rate is gonna drop, but you're gonna have to come up with more money. Of course, as the water rises, all boats rise, so that means that everybody will end up probably paying less dollars, because a guy that has a more expensive house, now that they have all the water and sewer services, and they can demonstrate that, they're gonna be sitting on something they can now sell in the open markets without having to disclose that they're having this kind of issues out there. So we put values, if you look at right now, the designated area in 2022 was valued at $125 million. In other words, there are 1,000 plus units that are in there are worth about a combined 125, meaning that the average value of the house is somewhere between 100,000 to 110,000. Give you a perspective, right? So in 23, we were told that the values were 139 million. So and that value growth was 11.4. I suspect that once all the infrastructure is put in place, in 3 years from now, that should be at least another 20% to 30% higher, just by virtue of the infrastructure, let alone what the market circumstances will do. Because now you have something that has legs, right? That has a service. So in a sense, we had told the voters, if you go to the second page, we had told the voters that there's 3 quadrants. The one in the middle in gray is pretty much what we had told the voters, that if you have a $100,000 house, the monthly impact is about 85. But we already told you it's more like $91. So the difference is on the far right column or the far right quadrant, where if you do have a $100,000 house, the monthly impact is going to be $6 higher than we originally told you back in May of 2022. Now the beauty of this is that the 7.2% that we've been quoted has actually gotten better. The way NatBank sets the quote, the interest rate quote to us, is based on a new index called, I think it's called SOFR. It's not sulfur. It's called SOFR, Securities Overnight Finance Rates, and they add about another 212 basis points on top of that. So whenever we agree to this, which will be in the next couple of weeks, our desk in Dallas, will look at what SOFR is doing on that given day, at that given time, and we lock the rate based on what that says, plus 212. So right now, the 720 is probably higher by about 10 to 12 basis points. So as I'm representing to you tonight. So hopefully, if this instability continues, in fact, you probably heard that Powell this morning raised the Fed rate by 0.25%. That has an impact on this. But we don't know. A lot of times the market reacts way in advance of Powell and the Fed. So we think that the rates may not do anything. And it's actually a good sign that there was only a quarter. Everybody was expecting a half, or more of a half than a quarter. So so going back to this, there is a difference. There's more of a cost. In fact, the biggest cost is on the second row from the bottom up on the third quadrant, where it says estimated total interest. The interest cost that we thought they were going to pay back in 22 was going to be about $14.6 million for that loan. It's coming more like to 30.8. So that difference, about $60 million more in additional interest cost. But it has to do with 2 things. One is we moved up from 25 years the loan to 30 years to offset the impact on the tax rate, the impact on the payment, and moving principal to not be paid back until after 5 years, so they wouldn't have as much of an impact. So that's the biggest difference there. Now, like in anything you do in the life of a loan, this is a 30-year loan. Doesn't mean you're going to pay it off in 30 years. If you try to pay it quicker, we're going to have the most special feature, and that is that we can refinance those loans once the rates get lower. You got 30 years to hopefully wait and see if we get down to the 2%. I don't think any of us are going to be here, but at the end of the day, you know, that's an option they can execute. Maybe Eddie Salazar, some of the other guys may be here and they can do that for us. So that's what that is. Then on the last page, on page 3, is sort of a schedule of events. Today, I felt compelled to come to you and share with you, here's where we are as far as the financing. Then by next Thursday, NADBank, the North American Development Bank in San Antonio, they finish the review and gives final approval. The board of directors, which is comprised of members appointed by the President of Mexico and the President of the United States, have already approved in general, the loan. And I think those will be more at the staff level, at the final approval basis. So next Thursday we'll get that. We'll let the staff know here that it's been approved, and then on April 3rd, the rates are set. They're provided by NADBank. We will confirm those rates, and then we have to close 30 days after, by April 27th. We will come to you at a special board meeting on April 5th to adopt the bond resolution. If there's I'm assuming it's a Wednesday, no?
Yeah, that's not a board meeting. Are we gonna call
It's a special board meeting, yeah,
You're gonna call a special board meeting?
if it's possible.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's got to be approved right after we get the rates. It'll be a quick meeting.
Easy.
And I'll stop and entertain questions you may have.
I don't have any. Fantastic. Yep.
Thank you for your efforts in this project.
It's been a
It's been a challenge.
Mr. Starkey, anything out there?
No, sir, excellent presentation. Thank you for all your work.
Thank you, sir, very much. And thank you, team. I mean, they went with us to San Antonio, and we put a lot of love into this thing, so thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Anything else on this?
Hey, Scott, is your
Yes.
microphone on? Forgive me for interrupting, but I can barely hear you.
Anyone have anything else on item 7 to discuss or ask questions, anything? No. Let's move to item 8. Consider and discuss for possible approval the monthly financial reports from January 2023.
I just want to highlight for the financial report, the trend that we're seeing on the revenue side. The consumption is down, and that's leading to lower than expected revenues. As we can expect from the water restrictions that we've issued. That's correct. The increase that we're seeing as compared to last year is due to the rate increase.
Anyone have any questions?
And on the expenditure side, we're keeping an eye on the lift station department. They're having a lot of repairs so far this year.
Any questions? We just need to acknowledge these. Acknowledged by Mr. Potter, acknowledged by Mr. Friedman,
Acknowledge.
Mr. Starkey, and acknowledged by Mr. Donahue. Takes us to item number 9, consider and approve the disposal of surplus material.
Chairman, members of the board, we have here a list of surplus items that we would like the board approval to dispose them.
Any questions, comments on any of these? Action item?
Mr. Chairman, on the previous agenda item, it's supposed to be an approval, not an.
You're correct. So we need to go back.
Sorry for the interruption.
Yes. Item 8, it was. So action item,
Motion to approve Item 8.
By Mr. Starkey, second by Mr. Donahue. All those in favor?
Aye.
They are.
Aye.
None, motion carries. Thank you, thank you. Item
Good
9,
job, Carlos.
approve. It's an action item. Motion for approval by Mr. Donahue.
Second.
Second by Mr. Blotter. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None, motion carries. Thank you. Let's go to item 10.
Do you guys have a public auction for those? Is that what you guys do?
Yes.
You advertise, you wanna.
No. Nothing I want. I'm just curious how you guys.
You wanted something?
No, I'm
Yeah,
fine.
plenty of.
I'm fine.
Item 10, consider and discuss for possible approval of purchasing windstorm, hurricane, and hail insurance information.
So current windstorm, hurricane, and hail insurance will be due by the end of this month. We went ahead and advertised to get proposals. We received one proposal. We are recommending the board approval and award the contract to Montalvo Insurance Agency for $234,249.99. In the backup, you can see a comparison for current versus this New Year. There was a 42% increase.
I don't know if Roger wants to have any comments. Do you have any comments on this? On the windstorm? Roger Garza is from our insurance consultant.
Hello.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Again, we did solicit proposals. We asked for a best and final offer from the incumbent, and we were able to ascertain some savings for the district. However, because of the proximity to the water, again, to the windstorm problem, and the limitation of companies that are out there offering this type of coverage, we have to assume some of the increase on the risk and the cost.
How big was the increase last year? Do you remember? 42% this year?
We pay 164.
Yeah, I'm curious what the increase was in 22 as opposed to 21.
So it's approximately 28%.
Okay.
28%.
28 to 42.
I mean,
I know.
you
I'm
just
dealing
can't,
with the same
it's gonna be the
thing.
point where it's just self-insurance.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't do that in this case. I mean, it's getting, you just can't raise 20, 30, 40.
Every year.
Even health insurance.
Right. And then
is-
Undoubled. So,
Sorry.
No, it's all right, and I agree, sir. It's just the fact that again, the limitation of companies that
I know.
are consolidating with each other is limiting the markets for
yeah.
the district to be able to solicit more companies. So hopefully things will lighten up a little bit, particularly with the fact that we didn't have that many hurricanes this past year. So hopefully this will open up next year.
Just had it, we had a lot of activity on the southeast side last.
I move that we approve.
Motion for approval made by Mr. Blotter, seconded by Mr. Donahue. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. That takes us to item 11, consider and review expenditures from March 1st, 2023 through March 15th, 2023. Any questions, comments, discussing in particular? Otherwise, we do acknowledge.
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 Acknowledged by Mr. Friedman, acknowledged by Mr. Starkey, acknowledged by Mr. Donahue. Next, item 12, executive session permitted by the Open Meetings Act, VTCA Government Code Section 551001, and sequence under Section 551071, consultation with attorney under Section 551072, deliberations about real property, water line easements across the Hess property. Need a motion to go into executive session at 6:09 p.m. Motion made by Mr. Donahue, second by Mr. Blotter. Are all those in favor?
Aye.
We are in executive
Aye.
session. Anyone not affiliated with this, we please ask if they can excuse themselves. Proceed as directed with legal staff.
I move
I
that
don't
we.
think it's even an act.
No.
It's kind of listed as a discussion.
Okay. Need a motion to adjourn this meeting at 6:24 p.m. Motion to adjourn
Second.
by Mr. Donahue, second by Mr. Blotter. All those in favor? We are. Everyone have a
Aye.
nice evening. Good night.